Kitcho, a.k.a. Mr. Boom Shakalaka. And now, Rick Sans and SergAndDestroy from Super Design Land. Boom Shakalaka.
You know?
If I found more pieces of mine that would sell would be like if it was a money character, but then I'd paint them as like Miles Morales or something like you said. It's more pop culture centric, but it's still moving my own platform out there, which is fine with me.
Yeah.
Plop a crate of records down too.
Yeah, that's like we played on the vinyl records, and that seems to always do well out there. Just from the hip hop culture and the graffiti stenciling aspect, it kind of ties into what we do on our toys. So we that's what we do predominantly here for all our conventions. It's just the records, because like we did some toys sometimes, and it's not really received out here, and it's kind of weird.
Ever since there was a store called Chaparoonie that had Steve Brown, who's always been really involved with Chris Reiniak, and once that store closed, any store that carried designer toys in Cleveland only lasted a year because they were selling so much online that they felt like conflicted on paying rent for an online business, basically.
Yeah.
And there's never been a real scene since Chaparoonie closed. And we've been bothering a place for like 10 years that's basically it's an old American Greetings gift card factory that's now like 40 galleries, and we've been bothering this dude forever about giving us a space. And it's one of those things where like if you're a girl you get a space, if you're a dude that he's not tight with, he's like yeah you're on the wait list. And then like we find out a dude that we know who's dating a girl with a gallery there wasn't even on a wait list and just got like a prime gallery space, which is good for him. Like I'm not hating on him, but where I'm like, dude, like I know that I've been bothering this guy before that guy had.
Yeah.
But I would totally like reinvigorate the designer toy scene here in Cleveland.
Have you considered approaching him wearing the Borat mankini?
I probably should.
You probably should.
Yeah.
Well, someone suggested, why don't you have your girlfriend start bothering him? And I was like, oh.
Say it's your girlfriend's spot, and we just work there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things, because like now that we don't just have art, we have our toys in both kind of, different kind of forms. We've been doing the resin, and then it ties in. Visually, there's nothing like that in there, and meantime, we just kind of buy a 10 by 10 space for like $75 at the events and just set it up, but like to have a physical place, because we could be doing this from inside there, like instead of just, that would be the space.
Rearranging my living room every 3 weeks.
That would be the easiest space to then do it from, because we'd be from the gallery, and, it's just more practical at that point.
Yeah.
So, in the meantime, it's this, but that's the whole thing where we're like, well, we need to branch out more to other events in as many cities as we can. Like we send out things to different shows, and we've been grateful, but when you have the presence of the artist in front of you to talk to you directly in person, that also has that's a different feel for, the collector, and, just to get following and kind of get it directly from them instead of just like a snippet.
You got to shake the hands and kiss the babies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I have a question for you. So you've never had a physical retail store for Tenacious. It's always been online?
Yeah. I live in Manhattan, and it's like it's really prohibitive. Like even Martian Toys, like he lives in Brooklyn, and look where he opened it.
Fully,
so
yeah.
It's like Vin at My Plastic Heart had one way downtown. I don't know the situation that led to him renting that space. He no longer has it, by the way. Obviously, he's in Greenpoint now. But Vin and Vicky had that space for a really long time. But it was tiny, and they kept all their inventory there, I think, and it was like packing and shipping from there. So I think it kind of made sense. But Toy Tokyo is like an outlier, because that dude's been doing designer toys for longer than designer toys have existed. So like he's always had that space, and that's been his business. And I think that's like, it's sort of like financially, that's an easier hurdle to overcome because he overcame it a long time ago. But for me, I just can't see the finances working out of having, because like renting a tiny space on like an off street in New York City without even that much foot traffic would be like $3,000-$4,000 a month. Then I have to pay insurance.
Right.
I'd have employees, and I'd have to be there all the time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I was just always curious because I was like, wait, did Tenacious ever have a physical spot? And he was like, no. And I'm like, I'm going to have to ask Benny that.
I think I do a really good job of like pretending like I'm a lot bigger than I am. So like, people get confused and they think I have a space. Or, I do a lot of events like here and there. I'm doing Creatives Con too. I got
awesome.
Like I'm sort of like collabing on another event in December up in Harlem with Reggie
with
the light.
Oh yeah.
And well, you guys know that. And things like that make it seem like I'm definitely a New Yorker, like I'm here, but like it seems like I have a place, but I really don't. So that's why I go so big at New York Comic Con, because like that is my shop.
Sure.
Basically that is like that illustrates what Tenacious is about. Like when you walk in there and you see all those creators and all those different people doing different things and like making really interesting products that you've seen before. Like that's what we're all about. And so that's my shop. I always think about that as my shop. But
well, that's awesome. It's
makes sense.
like your virtual brick and mortar. You don't have walls that contain you. That's pretty awesome.
It's your temporary metaverse.
Yeah. And I would do at Decon too, man, but I can't like the kind of stuff that I really sell, like, doesn't make sense for me to ship all that stuff over. Unless I have some giant exclusive with like a California based artist, which is like, I do get those sometimes, but it's like the timing of it would have to be right. And I just haven't hit. And my son is 5 too. So it's like moving around the country and being gone for long periods is just not that great right now.
Sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like Rob from Danger Bot, they have their young daughter, and they just take that. They took her to 5 Points with them, so she was just kind of hanging out in the heat. But then I was like, oh, that's you got like a 1-year-old or
damn that that heat is dangerous for someone at that age.
So like his wife I know kept taking her outside, and at least you had his wife to take her out of there. But that's a whole nother undertaking too that like a lot of us didn't have to worry about. So completely understand that.
Yeah, it seems like I'm not super down with like bringing kids to conventions, because it's like I know people do it out of kind of like desperation, but like it's such a long period of time, and I really can't focus on like other things aside from the booth. When I'm in the booth, it's like all of my attention, like
sure,
and I walk in. So it's sort of like if I'm dividing my attention between the booth and like my kid, then I feel like I'm kind of like wasting all the money I'm spending on the booth, because I'm just like I'm sort of half-assing it,
That makes total sense.
That's my perspective. I bet other people. Oh, you still there?
Yep. It like glitched for a second on our end, but we can still see you.
I was I got a call for a sec. I feel like other people in our scene kind of like it works for them. I just don't think it works for me. I gotta walk the path here.
Yeah.
Sure. You got to do what works for you.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I was mid thought.
Oh no, that's cool. If you have a thought, say it.
What would you suggest to somebody? I mean, like we've had a lot of newer people come into the scene and get involved, say like in the last, since just beginning a pandemic. Do you have any advice for people who are just starting out that, like they see all these people that are already there, and they don't necessarily know where to start?
Yeah. You mean, okay. I was actually, I'm about to redesign my website and launch kind of like an updated version of the website, and that's actually some of the content I'm gonna write up. So it's just like literally there for people to look at. And that was one of the pieces I wanted to write up, which was like how do I kick it off in this scene, you know? And so like I'll definitely I'll tell you guys. This will help me think through the whole thing. I've been thinking about this whole thing, and then eventually I'll sit down and write it. But I guess it kind of depends. Are we talking now? We're assuming these people are artists of some sort.
Yeah. We'll add some constraints.
Yeah.
Artist sees toys, or like artists who bought some Funko Pops, that was their gateway drug in. They collected some stuff, but now they want to be involved in some way, whether it's painting on or resins or
you know. The first, well, you know, if you're just gonna paint and customize toys, the first thing you gotta do is acquire a bunch of toys that are like interesting to you and to other people, and paint on them and like sort of work on developing a style you really enjoy. That is also like, and another thing I've seen that has popped up over the past 15 years that I've been doing this is try to make your style appreciably different than anyone else's, because like sometimes people have a similar style or a look or some character attribute, and inevitably you'll be like, those eyes look like cars, you know.
Yeah.
or like it'll be like, you can't do teeth like that, Nervous Wreck does teeth like that, and it's like, okay, all right, so you had to do a little research into the scene and see who's doing what, and then develop your own style, and then try to stay consistent with it. I mean, you can evolve it, but you want to develop a look. Yeah. And the look can either be color combos, you know, like I work with Ophelia Toys, and he likes really bright colors. Serge, you have a certain look to your paint, which is, you can kind of identify it. Like if you know, like it's not that you have a specific character that you do on everything, but like you definitely have a paint style, like no matter what you're doing, where like I can pick it out. And you know, there's artists like very specifically like John Paul Kaiser. I mean, it's like, you know, or that's a Luke Chu piece because it's a sad panda, or like that is definitely Jesse Hernandez, or you know, like whatever, you know. So it's good to have something that is identifiable that you can think about creatively and then apply to another platform and be like, oh yeah, I can do this stuff. Like I got my I actually have my screensaver going here, but like, you know, even Alex Playful Gorilla, like, I mean, even though his cartoon characters are really identifiable to me, he's also got this black and green thing that he does everywhere, right? So that works, you know. But you want to develop that style so that like there's some consistency to your work, so that when people see it, they can identify. I mean, another example of this is like JFO. Like,
oh yeah,
it's not that he has a color or a look or a character. It's what he does with his lighting and electronics, and just like he'll like 3D print stuff and he'll make things, and like if you know JFO, you can identify that right away.
Oh yeah.
Even I piece before, you know, that piece before, you're like, oh, that's got to be JFO, because it's like it's you can really see it, you know.
Yeah, when he put his videos up of like some of the bases, it's just all the layered pieces, and you don't even see it. Like when you see it, you're just like, oh, that was printed out in one piece. It's like 50 pieces that he puts together that it looks like an onion, and then you put the figure or whatever. I'm like, this is madness, but it's genius, and he's a master at it. Yeah. But like people would just think like, oh, he could put a base and threw some batteries in it, and you know, whatever, and it's just like that's like some 5D chess he puts out on those pieces sometimes.
Really creative design work on his part, but like that's what I'm talking about. So like if you have a thing, and actually he's a really good example, because like the first stuff I ever sold from him was just like, I think the very first thing I sold was just like little weed charms, like you just like bud like on a necklace, and it's totally like, you know, totally different than what he's doing now, but like he he did some things, he experimented with stuff, and then he sort of found a groove where he's really shining in that specific space. But that's what I would recommend to artists is like find your groove, or like build your world, whether it's like world building, like Tokidoki, like that's a world, everything fits together. It's like, it totally makes sense. Like you can pick out a Tokidoki world. You can see someone with a Tokidoki like purse on the street. You're like, that's Tokidoki. You can see it from like 40 feet away, But you want to build that up so that, because what you're really selling to people is not that specific piece, but like they're buying into like your world that you've created.
Makes sense.
That also makes it a lot easier for you to make graphics for your social media, build a website. Like, what does your website look like? Well, it looks like your world, what is your messaging? So some of the world building, like Juan Muniz, like his Nino Bunny
world is amazing.
So he's got a certain look to his art, right? And that's one thing, but he's got messaging. Like he is putting out a message.
Right.
And so the look of the art is one thing, and then the messaging is another, but he's building this brand where like all that is combined, that's what he's delivering to you. So that's totally valid too. But this is all just, and any artist would be doing this. It just so happens that we're talking about toy art and like character art.
Sure.
Like that. But the same goes for any kind of artist, whether you do watercolors or oil painting or sculpture or like make toys or something like that. Like build out that world, like craft that vision, like have that vision in your head and then express it and stick to it, like have it defined. Is it colors, is it a character, is it an emotional message, is it the way things are constructed, like JFO, is it a certain color combo, like John Ball Kaiser? Some people only do pop culture rips, some pop, here's my take on The Simpsons, here's my take on Mickey Mouse. Some people only do that, and that's fine. If that's what you're doing, then do that.
Right.
So that's where you start. It's really like a looking within process, and then expressing what you want to express and being consistent about it. And like picking that thing out that you want to put out into the world. And then after that, part of the other thing I wanted to talk about, the other part, the follow-up question, which you haven't asked me yet, but which is the natural follow-up to this, is, so you're an artist and you've established a look or a style or a hat or a set of colors or whatever you've established. That's great. Yay. But now you have to fucking sell it.
Yeah.
You need to sell things to people at a profit. Like that's the really important thing, that unless you're Steve Aoki and you came into this world wealthy,
right.
you actually have to sell things. So like, you should first start with things that are easy for you to make and that you can make at a really low cost, that expresses what you want. So stickers, prints, sketches, original drawings, certainly custom toys is one, but custom toys are pricey. So stickers, prints, sketches, you can do t-shirts. One of Alex's contacts, we all have a bunch of contacts that do this, but a really good one is the Fiburo prints. That guy Cisco, who does all of Alex's, he's got embroidery machines, so he can make you caps.
Yeah, we got a bag. I have a duffel bag that they just made. So
it's like whatever, like products that are like between $10 and $50 that someone else can make for you with your characters on them, which you can hopefully sell at a small profit. And then there's enamel pins, which are a huge thing, which are inevitably, if you're making a good number of them, they cost you $1 each and you sell for 10. So that's like, yay, Right. And that'll literally just have your character on it, or something about and people collect a ton of those,
Yeah, I have your Danger Dog one right here. I have both the blue and that, but I have the brown one.
Nice. Yeah, your neon sign is blowing out everything. So
Sorry.
You're literally just a dude sitting in it. You're almost like a like an FBI like informant
Oh,
outline.
sweet. That's even better. That's great. Yeah, we'll have to adjust that for next time.
But
And we're not using our FaceTime video, just his FaceTime video. So
right.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you have a way better camera.
our cameras are behind the laptop. One's recording the whole room 360 degrees up, down, left, and right. And then the other one's just recording 5K, like from the edge of my seat to the edge of his seat.
That's awesome. You're so technically advanced.
And then you're going to be floating in the window when you're talking.
You
Oh, yeah.
You should move me around sometimes, just like
We just have them upside down.
I'll do that. I'll do that right now.
Well, we
Benny.
said,
I can't wait to.
we're definitely going to do
I
that.
can't wait to figure out how to do that. Move it around.
But yeah, I actually what I'm talking about right now, like merchandising your art, is actually like Jason Freeney is a lecturer at SVA, School of Visual Arts, and he's got a whole class about I think designer toys, like how to make designer toys. Okay. And I before COVID, I was coming in every year to guest lecture about merchandising.
Nice.
And he just asked me if I would do it again. So I think the classes are kicking in again in person, and I'm going to start going down there and talking about what I'm talking about right now, like how to start, like literally what to make to start this whole process out, and to build. The whole point is you build up to a designer toy, you know, right. And it's a long process because, you know, who has $50,000 to spend on a toy, you know, like you can't make something like this.
Yeah,
like
that's stickers and prints and that's how we started. Well, we started with T-shirts.
Oh yeah,
and then went back to so we kind of went to making our own tees, and then it was stickers, prints, and that, and then we, painted out skateboards and things like that were like things that we would always have around us because Rick was a skateboarder and I was a BMXer, so we were like, well, how can we tie that stuff into things with our graffiti and whatever? And then it slowly he was the one who introduced me to a money. He was like, hey, check this thing out, and I was like, wait, what's that? And he goes, oh, it's this toy. And I'm like, I grew up with toys. I'm a Ninja Turtle collector, all those things. But then he was like, no.
I think it was Dunny.
Well, I think maybe Dunny, and then we got into Money World or whatever. But he was just like, look at these things, and then it was a game over. We were like, I was like, he's like, let's go buy we were doing all the opening parties. Okay, well, let's screw it. We're going to go get a case each. And, we even got our friend who's like a tattoo artist. He randomly popped up. Well, I want to participate in this, and open the boxes. And then once the blank came out, that was game over. Then it was like, oh man, how can I take this graffiti piece I just drew and apply it to this thing? Okay, well, now you got to figure out how it wraps, and oh, well, it already looks like a humanoid thing. I'll make it into a character. And then it just, from then on, it was like we just were like, that was it. We kind of fell down the hole and
never came out.
Yeah, we're still down there somewhere.
I've been there right with you guys. Rick, weren't you in that first show that I did in Queens?
The
Rolly show?
Yeah, the Rolly show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in that.
Yeah.
I turned one into a UFO and then random stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just random stuff. That must have been right at the beginning of your this whole journey.
Slightly before that.
You did
I was I'm looking at the poster on the wall, the Detroit Money Show that I think was 2006.
Where was that? That at Lift Detroit?
Yeah. And the names on it are crazy. I met Tristan Eaton there and I didn't know he was the Dunny Money guy. I just saw this dude roll up in an Escalade and everyone kissing his ass, so I intentionally didn't talk to him. And then they were each person who did a custom in the show and each person who attended got a raffle ticket, and he drew his own name, or someone else drew his name. And well, that's the VR camera that needs a battery change.
Okay.
Someone picked his name, and then he picked the next ticket, and it was me. and I won the Red Rum Kozik 8-inch dunny.
Nice.
But anyway, the names on it are crazy, like Nakanari, Dr. A, Motorbot, who lives here in Cleveland now.
Oh, dude, where did that guy go?
Owns an art store.
They own an art supply store. We hang out. Like I was just there like 2 days ago. He's super cool, and we were like, bro, we gotta figure out some stuff to work on, because him and his wife, they were down in Texas. And then now they've been here for a couple years. Yeah, like our major art supply store got bought out by Michaels, and then out of nowhere, one of the guys who does murals was like, "Yo, there's a spot opening up in Lakewood," and then I just rolled in, and on the back of their wall, I saw some things, this little toy. I was like, "Hey, you guys make those?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, well I used to do this. I used to go under a name Motorbot." I was like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Now my name is just, and he just goes under like what his art is now. So he's just doing like hand drawings of monsters and like some patches and things like that. But he says he wants to get back into that at some point." Can
you tell that dude I said what's up? Because we definitely lost contact.
Oh yeah.
Made really cool little toys. And
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're cool. Like I was like, man, like, you need to get into this. He was showing me that he dressed up his house, I guess, like as a monster. So he does like the teeth on the front of the house, and the windows are eyeballs and things like that for Halloween. And we were just chatting about that the other day. And they're really cool. Like we have some art in there, and like and like it's really cool. But like I think he's like slowly, by me and Rick just going in there and always buying some paints for like our toys, and then like now they see our figures. I think at some point, like I think he might be getting the itch back.
Yeah, we'll get him re-inspired.
Yeah.
When I changed the battery on the one camera, the other one's hardwired into the wall. It was Kano, Betso, Deluxe, Brent Nolasco, UPSO or USPO.
Upso, yeah.
There's a couple other ones, but
yeah, that was the show he was in first.
and that was the first time I tried sushi. I forgot what else there. Met a random person and just crashed out there instead of having to drive the 3 hours back here.
Wow.
It was a crazy situation. Because then, because there was that, and then there was something in Denver that was Denver or Boulder that I did, and then somewhere around then was also that Rolly show.
Yeah.
At that point.
Man, good times. Good times.
It's crazy how much time has passed, but at the same time, it doesn't seem all that long ago.
Yeah, I don't know if that's good or bad. I always think it's always like, I always look at it in the context of like what I've done in that period of time. I'm like, I haven't really gotten anywhere. I'm still here doing the same thing. I'm like, is this it? Like, is this what we're doing here? Like,
ours was like, we were like, okay, when does it stop for us to just not only customize, because we like same thing, like we would come to decamp, but then we were like, well, all we have is customs, and it's like, but we have our own field. Like we had to start branding ourselves, and that was like a couple years. Like people would look, oh, you guys are the record guys, and it's like, no, we're the record guys back home, but like we don't want to be just the record guys here. Like this is, we just kind of bring them as something else we do, and also it helps pay for the plane tickets because those are easy. You can move them and whatever.
And keep my pet peeve. They keep booking decon the week you return to fly for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so it's always more expensive.
That's one of the primary reasons why it's not a great show for me. Like, because first of all, travel's nuts as you run up to Thanksgiving. First of all, and second of all, like, I don't want to miss Thanksgiving. I remember one time I was coming back from decon. It was like the day before Thanksgiving. It was like stressful, I don't know.
And everyone's crazy in airports and on planes now. That just makes it even worse.
Yeah.
I mean, it was always bad, but it seems to be worse.
But yeah,
But
so
yeah,
that's
you guys really should. You guys should come up with your own characters and just make them. I mean, I think that Mile High idea with just the shark head, is like a really low cost thing for you to start out and just have.
yeah.
And the let's see, the body of the dog is like 3 inches, and then the shark head's probably gonna be 4. You're probably gonna have a 6 or 7 inch tall figure with like the lowest possible mold cost, and then it's just like get a made in like a neutral color, and you just paint them up. That's your lane, man, that you're in. So at least be on your own platform.
And shout out to Sir One. It's already 3D sculpted. I would probably just remove the spray part of the figure, so it's just the physical shark.
Yeah.
Maybe remove the spray can he's biting on too, but I'm sure he'd be stoked to have his name thrown in the mix.
When you submit a file to Mile High, Paul looks at it and talks to the engineers, and he'll come back at you and he'll be like, hey, listen, this part needs to be changed because it's an undercut and it won't pull out of the mold. Right?
Correct.
Hot vinyl is very, very soft, so there is leeway there, and the shark is cone shaped. So the way it comes out, the biggest part is the neck, right? Where it attaches to the dog. So you have it's going to be easier to pull that out of a mold versus like some other kind of creature that has a head that comes out like this.
That makes sense.
Yes. So I think you already have an advantage. So I'm not sure there's a whole lot you would need to do. You could probably have the spray can if you want. You would just have to make sure the details of that don't impede the pulling out of the mold.
Sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like a lot of mine are like the more so rounded heads. So yeah, but that's a good take on like how to design for something like that, because you
get used to it after a while. You start looking at these, you're like, oh, this thing isn't going to work. If you just, some people can't picture it visually, but you guys are artists, so I don't know if it works like this in your head, but you can close your eyes and look at the shapes in your head. I don't know if you can do that, but I had it, and I can imagine someone in the workshop pulling the mold out, pulling the piece out of the mold. There's a plug. There's like a cone, and you pull it out, and then he cuts off the flash. But if you think about it, and you're like, okay, if I'm pulling it out like this,
what's going to get caught?
Pulling of it, the side coming out, and a lot of times you can just look at your shape and be like, this is going to work, this isn't, this needs to be like the shape like this needs to be more like that,
Right. Sure. Oh, that's great insight. I appreciate that, because that's those are definitely pitfalls that you'd want to dodge.